It was the Bush vote that got the country Liberals over the line at the last election. This time, the pollsters and bookmakers are predicting the CLP will lose seats and the election.
The country Liberals campaign bus has been rolling into the Territory's 7 Bush seats. Candidates are fielding ongoing concerns about funding for roads and housing.
More houses for every community across the Territory.
It was Bush votes that got the CLP into power in 2012 when they promised to turn around underinvestment by Labour. Now the country Liberals' performance is under the spotlight.
Many Indigenous Territorians have seen fantastic outcomes during our 3.5 term of government. That includes particularly investments in infrastructure, whether that's roads and bridges and houses.
But even CLP candidates see deficiencies.
Housing needs to be more housing, education and small businesses.
Many remote residents have also watched community programs cut.
Indigenous affairs funding's been, sliced so many times.
Labour lost in 2012 because it amalgamated local councils, and federally Labour continued the intervention. But the Bush came back to Labour in the July federal election.
I believe that our positive plans will see us return to seats in the Bush, and that will then see us working hard for 4 more years to keep earning that trust.
The parties have made similar Bush promises, including more money for housing and more local government accountability. The treatment of Indigenous youths in detention has damaged the CLP.
If I was Adam Giles, I'd be very worried about the outcomes of the election. I think there's a palpable, anger in the Aboriginal community at the moment.
But in the Bush, personalities are also important. For months, influential retiring independent Alison Anderson has been campaigning for Labour. This has boosted Labour's Chancey Pake against the CLP's Heidi Williams in Namatjira, and Labour's Scott McConnell against sitting CLP member for Stewart, Bess Price.
The seats that the CLP will lose are Namatjira and Stewart, and also, I suspect, Daly.
In Daly, CLP Minister Gary Higgins is being challenged by Labour's Anthony Vaness. But Gary Higgins is well known. He's rebelled against Adam Giles on contentious issues like water licences and gained roads funding.
I think I've spent, or arranged to have spent, well over $50 million.
In Arnhem, independent Larissa Lee, who's kept the CLP in power, will use her strong family connections to try to face off Labour's Selina Yubo.
That's a very tricky seat to predict. I suspect that Larissa Lee will poll strongly in the southern half of the electorate.
In Arafura, CLP sitting member Francis Xavier Kurapou's fight with Labour challenger Lawrence Costa will also come down to personal support.
Francis is one of the hardest working politicians that I know, and that's not saying that lightly.
Labour's Lynn Walker should hold Nhulunbuy, and Labour's Jerry McCarthy is likely to keep Barclay against the CLP's Tony Jack. But Barclay independents, including former Labour Minister Elliot McAdam and Jack Green, could split Labour's vote.
So I think Labor will bounce back there, notwithstanding that Elliot McAdam is standing.
Many voters will use new rules allowing them to choose one candidate instead of allocating preferences. That will particularly split the vote where one territory candidates stand.
For instance, in Breitling, which is obviously not a Bush seat, but Giles will win because the anti-Giles vote is split amongst about 4 or 5 people.
Many remote voters are still to decide.
I don't know.
Greens. If there's a Greens candidate around here, I don't know.
I'm not interested in voting. There's nothing really happening in remote communities.
It appears the country Liberals will lose at least 2 Bush seats in an election where they can't even afford to lose one to stay in government. Labour looks likely to pick up at least 2 extra remote seats. Jane Bardon, ABC News.